How you declared me a Pitama. I believe I'm young enough to participate with all of you. But anyway, it's a compliment. I'll take it. Fine, we had some wonderful perspectives. One from the Vice Chancellor of Mahamaya Technical University, two from industry stalwarts, especially from the HR side, who are the ones who are deep into recruitments and the kind of issues they face at the time of recruiting from the colleges. One from Mr. Kamal, the NHRDN, which is the biggest organization of HR professionals in this country. I also happen to be an area Vice President of NHRDN, and I'll be there in that conference on 9th and 10th at Hyderabad. I've been a regular attendee there. After all this, what becomes clearly visible is that industry has certain expectations, and we as colleges are not able to fulfill them. This is what is coming out of all these discussions. I have seen both the sides of the fences. I have worked 32 years in industry, starting from a graduate engineer trainee in a public sector undertaking, have worked in another public sector undertaking. After having worked in private sector for close to 8 years, I went back to public sector. I again left the public sector, went back to private sector, operated at the level of Vice President and Director Research and Development, Director Marketing, General Manager Exports Production, very wide repertoire. 10 years I sustained myself as a freelance consultant, and I'm happy to tell you that all the companies with whom I had consulted turned around and became very profitable. Then I came into academics, handling placements. So I have seen both the sides of the fences. I can very well analyze this gap and share with you. A lot of very good questions have come. First of all, let me tell you the plight of the training and placement community of the TNP officers, because right now I'm speaking as an extension of all of you from your point of view, not from the industry point of view, as to what the TNP officers in mid-level colleges are facing. Then what our industry people have told and where exactly is the gap and what we need to do in terms of solutions and why those solutions are not coming. Why is it not emerging? As Mr. Raghav said, what do we do about it? Now, we'll deliberate on those things. I'll take very little time. Let me give you some statistics. There have been different estimates of engineering colleges. In fact, there had been 4,700 colleges. 300 of them have already closed down. The current listing of AICT is 4,000 plus. To be very precise, 4,300 colleges are still in operation today across the country, which are recognized by the All India Council for Technical Education. There are more than 600 universities. Out of that, about 387 universities are offering engineering courses. Together, it's about 1.5 million. He put the figure as 14.54. Universities don't have a constraint on the amount of students they can take in. So it could be 1.5, it could be 1.6 million, which we can actually educate at the base level, that means the graduate level, graduate engineer level. You can turn out 1.6 million students, which capacity is almost the second highest, or maybe the third highest, or the second highest in the world. Now, how many are actually enrolling? All this capacity got created because there was a big forecast from the government agencies that we are going to have a gross enrollment ratio close to 30%, and there's going to be huge growth in economy, and a lot of engineering students are going to be needed. We'll run short of manpower. A lot of issues were there. So colleges were allowed to be opened up by AICT, and a huge capacity has got created. The net enrollment in engineering college today is around 0.95 million. About 9,50,000 students are entering. About 1,50,000 of them are not completing their degrees and falling out, and close to 0.8 million, about 8 lakh students are coming out of the colleges. At the end of the pipeline, what is coming out is 8 lakh students with graduate engineering degrees of various branches. Out of them, it's around 2.2 lakhs only who are getting offer at the campuses. Rest are not getting the offer at the campuses. The very good tier 1 institutions we are talking of, IITs, NIITs. Yes, in IITs the placement percentage is close to 90%. They claimed it to be 100%. It's not 100%. Most of the years around 90%. In good NIITs it may be 85% or 90% or 80%. In good engineering colleges, which are in the upper segment in the self-financing sector, it may be around 65 to 75%. And in the lower down of the ladder, it may be 0% also. So the figure is around 2,20,000, and out of this, around 1,40,000 at the campus are being hired by only the IT industry. By only the IT industry. Close to 25,000 were being hired by the telecom industry. And only about 50,000 odd are being hired by the core industries from the campuses. Only about 45 or 50,000, which is less than 25% of the total hiring from the campuses that is taking place. Now, why is it so? Why is it so? And why do we, as training and placement officers, run towards these IT companies? Where is the gap? For the very simple reason that IT is the biggest employer of engineering graduates as of today. Take an example of TCS. If there are 250,000 people on its roll, close to 200,000 will be engineering graduates or higher qualification. There will be 50,000 who will be less than an engineering graduate or with diplomas or various other kind of trainings and all that. Take the course of a core company, say Reliance, say NTPC, say any other this thing. If you have 250,000 people on roll, 50,000 will be graduate engineers or above. 2 lakhs will be people of lower qualification. ITIs or skilled workers or diploma holders or supervisors or highly skilled workers or unskilled workers or transport employees or whatever you call them, or office assistants or whatever. The bulk of, so that is more inclusive in terms of the economic growth for the country, but so far as colleges in the self-finance sector are concerned, their main bread and butter, their sustenance, their existence depends upon putting up a good placement performance, and the bulk of the performance is coming from IT sector. Whether it's good or bad, I don't want to comment on that. But the fact remains that the success of Indian IT sector has been very closely analyzed by people across the world. And what are the reasons for its outstanding success? Do you know that? Amongst several reasons, the foremost reason is that, as somebody said, white collar worker, I wish to term it as knowledge worker. The knowledge worker is available cheapest in this country, in India, as compared to any other country in the world. You have good people in US or in Europe, but they are available at 8 to 10 times of the cost. And in India, you get it for 1/8 of the cost, and the quality of contribution that man is making is as good or better than a person from US or Europe. And that's why nobody is able to beat India in terms of mid-segment software solutions or application providing. Nobody is able to beat out. Countries who are lesser down have skills for hard work, they don't have that intellectual capacity or the analytical skills or the kind of logic and reasoning skills which are required, for which this country is extremely rich. There's nobody on this earth to beat Indians so far as logical and analytical abilities are concerned. So this is one reason our manpower resources are very rich in terms of intellectual capacity. And what is the second reason, do you know? This has come out of an analysis done for nobody else but Stanford University. That is third reason, not the second. The second reason is that IT industry has concentrated in sourcing most of its manpower from mid-segment colleges. As compared to employers in US, they started hiring thinking that Harvard, Stanford, Kellogg's, California Institute of Technology, and such big names are the only educational institutions where from you get talent. Like Mr. Sanjay Singh said, talent, 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 war for talent. We are going mad. What is talent? And they themselves analyzed, nobody less than from an expert from Harvard who spoke on this at great length for 1 hour, and he said, we have come to the conclusion that we have gone for very high-end things, that thinking that these people will create innovations which will raise the value by 100% or 200% or 500% in terms of what the cost we incur, and then we will sell that But surprisingly, the innovations don't occur every alternate day. So for very high-end applications like developing a new operating platform or developing a new tool or a language, possibly those Harvard or Stanford graduates would have been of use. But for normal mid-end applications and software solutions, they were miserable failures because their aspirations were far more higher. They were not content with a salary of $2,000 or $2,500. They wanted $5,000 to start with. So we made the jobs more complicated, even more complicated, and they could not deliver because they didn't have that kind of capability, and they felt so frustrated that in US, an average student feels that one of the worst sectors to go into is computer science and IT. This is first-rate experience I'm talking to you about. We got a visitors team from California Institute of Technology in our college because the professor concerned happened to be a NRI from India, from one of the IITs she was serving there as the head of the IT department, and she had promised to one of our professors that on our India visit, we'll visit your college because we'll visit Agra. Now, we had an interaction with our students, some 35 students picked up from our colleges, and I don't say our colleges are an IIT or an IIT or anything of no such grand claims. We had an interaction. I sat through the 2 hours of interaction, and I was greatly surprised that students of our colleges were far, far superior to the students from United States in terms of communication and skills, in terms of intellectual capacity, in terms of asking the quality of questions. The American students were no match for Indian students. This is first-hand experience I got. Why? Because all the talent is rushing into the computer science in the IT sectors. There, they don't come into that because they think it is one of the worst careers to follow. In India, we think it is one of the best careers. Now, what is the purpose of telling this? That the IT industry has actually sourced its requirements from mid-segment colleges. Around 2008, all the industry leaders from the IT sector were crying that if the growth of IT gets hindered or affected, it will not be for want of orders or for more demand from the market. Rather, it will be a constraint on the availability of talented manpower. They repeatedly used to say this. Of course, the demand has not grown that much. But what it actually led us to was that all these IT companies, fearing a big constraint on the availability of trained manpower, integrated backwards, and almost all top companies designed their application, you see this thing, came out with courses, started interacting with institutions, and you name any big IT company. Microsoft has a big IT training scheme. Big portal, lot of support. Now it has come out with its own education partners also. IBM running centers of excellence across the country. Name any other. HP has its own training wing with the contents are provided by HP. The trainers are trained by them. They go to the colleges for a small fee of a few 1,000 rupees. They conduct training programs. TCS has regular alliance with the campuses. Infosys, as one of the ladies has said, Campus Connect program. Name any one of them. HCL has a similar this thing. All big IT names have come backward, have gone to the campus, have mentored, and you do not require very large plant and machinery actually to put IT training into place. All you require is a mindset, a few softwares, and a laptop. So today, IT sector is not suffering from dearth of talent. It's a success story. And enough number of people are available, the campuses are happy, the IT sector is happy, and the Vice Chancellor definitely said that there is going to be automation. Let me tell you, this sector will continue to grow for at least 2 more decades. The total world size of IT market is $1.6 trillion. Out of that, 60% can be handled by India. That works out to close to $900 billion. And as of today, we are only $100 billion. So there's 9 times more progress that is yet to happen, and it will happen over the next 2 decades. And in spite of all the competition that is coming up, nobody will be able to beat India in terms of mid-segment software solution providing or actual application in the field. So it's going to grow because the manpower of a globally competitive nature is available. This is one success story. Why I am narrating this? we'll see where the gaps are and how they have to be bridged, because nobody has been able to provide the solution how it is to be bridged. We have raised the issues, we have raised the concerns, fine. How do we take care of that? Now there is a second success story, that also I'll share. Then we'll conclude out of that how the success stories have come around, how they have happened. The second success story is the telecom sector. No more there is much demand. But how did the telecom sector start? You see, Indian telecom sector has brought the mobile services at one of the cheapest costs across the world. At the cheapest cost across the world, Indian mobile sector is operating, and people are shivering in developed nations that these people happen to come to other countries. It will be very difficult to beat them on the cost parameter with excellent quality of service. How has this happened? It has taken a different route. All these big service providers have outsourced their activities. There may be few big ones like Ericsson or Nokia, Siemens or Huawei or ZTE or whatever, some 4 or 5 big people who are managing the entire infrastructure for the telecom service providers. Now these companies 6 years or 7 years back used to hire graduates at 5 lakhs per annum or 6 lakhs per annum, and the cost was huge. They have done other innovations. I'm not saying it's only the manpower input which has helped them, but they are hiring at that thing. Now a new model has emerged. They have started appointing vendors. Manpower vendors they have started appointing, and what has happened, these manpower vendors are responsible as a third party for conducting their operations. These vendors have set up their own training arrangements. They pay a much lesser salary. They pay around 14 or 15,000 rupees only. There are n number of them available in the market. They charge a small fee of 15 to 30,000 rupees from students. They give 3 months of training and put them at a starting salary of some 15,000 rupees per month on their actual work. Within a year, 1.5 years or 2 years, students who perform very well are then recruited by Ericsson or by Nokia or by others. Then they get that salary. So instead of doing the training themselves, these big companies have outsourced their training effectively to these vendors, who are in turn picking up the lower end of the electronics and communication or EC or EI or EE students, training them up and absorbing them. The student is a loser as well as a gainer. Why is he a loser? He should have at least a starting salary of say 25,000 rupees to sustain, so that he has capacity to save something, to move forward, to look forward to a good life, to settle down. All that is not there. At 14,000 level, you can barely subsist. In a metropolitan city like Delhi, you can't even subsist at that amount. So the student is loser there in terms of the initial emoluments. But where is the gainer? This kind of training the colleges are not able to provide. You can't invest of 10 crores of rupees in a hub and then train up students and then put them into real use. That a college will not be able to do. It will not get the trainers, the faculty will not participate. If the hub is there, it gets updated, the updation will not occur, the maintenance will not occur. Just a big monument will be standing in the college and nobody will be operating this and nobody will be getting trained. But we'll be advertising in all magazines that we have a 10 crore investment in telecom. Our center of excellence, wonderful. How much is coming out of that? Go to the colleges and see. It will be standing as a Taj Mahal, as a monument only. It will not be used. So these vendors have come forward. They have taken the lower segment of these students, trained them up, and go to the telecom sector. 75% of the talent are the low-end students of these mid-segment colleges. This is one of the contributing factors which has brought down the cost, operational cost, very substantially. There are other factors, there are other models, reaching to the customer, locating these facilities nearby, some marketing gimmicks and strategies and this thing, all that has also helped. These two success stories, where one is the path differently followed, other is followed by a different this thing, but at the root of both of these things is, the conclusion is that the average Indian student can sustain a high performing industry. The intellectual capability of the students is of that order that given the training, given the exposure, they will become good performers, which is adequate to support the industry requirements. Maybe all of them will not become Sachin Tendulkars of telecom, or very high-end performers, but definitely they'll perform well enough for your company to sustain, to compete globally. These two success stories tell us very rightly this. It has not happened in the core sector. This is the first time I heard from Mr. Sanjay Singh that, okay, mediocres are good enough, we are willing to go to the campuses, we are willing to hire them, we are willing to train them, and that we have cut down the training time from 2 years to 1 year. I also received my training for 2 years in Hindustan Machine Tools, which happened to be one of the premier organizations when I started way back in 1971. Very thorough training, right? So, why has it not happened in the core sector? So one of the ladies said there, see, there are 4 aspects that an employer looks forward to. It has been spoken in different ways by the industry experts. If you want to sum it up, first is the knowledge component that a student must possess. Second is the ability to apply that knowledge and the relevant supporting skills that is required. Can he apply that knowledge in real life situations? And does he have all the supporting skills necessary to put that knowledge into use, into effective use, and produce the results which the industry wants? And there's a second set of skills which we call as soft skills, essentially interpersonal skills, essentially communication skills, and essentially those emotional maturity or emotional regulation that we actually look forward to, that is required. Thirdly, positive attitudes to perform, the kind of self-drive that you need within yourself to perform, the kind of positiveness to put in more effort than what you are paid for, the golden rule for success. All these capabilities as a positiveness of mind, the right values, create the right attitudes. If your value system is tweaked or distorted, it won't result into positive attitudes. Positive attitude is not something very skin deep. This is the reflection of what deep inside you as a person are. And that reflects in terms of the mental approach that you adopt to different situations. The typical mental approach or the response that you give in response to some stimulus of life and working life or day-to-day working, that's your attitudinal part. But where does it come from? It's a matter of great research, but then core values actually determine the attitudes to a very great extent. Right? So this positiveness in your approach of mind is very essential, because performance in spite of good knowledge and skills may not come unless you have positive attitudes. So positive attitudes are, what else? You require certain job specific competencies, say leadership capacity in some cases, a lot of confidence in some cases, very good interpersonal behavior with customers, let's say in a selling job, lot of courage in a military job. They are specific to jobs, so job related competencies. If these 4 overall competency framework is in place, a student will go and perform eventually a high performer at the workplace. He will become. Now how do you impart these competencies? Knowledge we do at the college in the classroom. That we do. Unfortunately, our curriculum is highly outdated, out of sync with what industry currently demands. Our knowledge content base is those of the 70s, and industry has moved forward much ahead since those times, and still most of our content that is being followed is from those times. It's out of sync with industry. What do we do about it? Most of you have said the faculty of that capability is just not available, so keep weeping, keep crying. Let's start with whatever faculty we have. I mean, that faculty is not frozen, that for their lifetime they'll remain with the kind of attitudes that they had. Where from all these faculties are coming? From those very IITs, or from whether it's Banaras Hindu University or University of Roorkee and all that. 30 years back, nobody talked of this institute-industry interface in this way, vibrantly, that we are talking of. There was a shortage of engineering talent. Companies were hard-pressed to get that talent. They'll go and recruit whatever they had at the campuses. They had wonderful training programs lasting for 2 years. And all these people learned and became successful. If you go to the upper strata of the private sector management today, people with 45 years or more of age, you'll find 90% of them have come out of public sector undertakings. So the biggest contribution that I personally believe that public sector undertakings have made to the success of this nation is not in terms of what they are producing, is in terms of the manpower, trained manpower they have provided to industry. If private sector at all is competitive and successful, the credit goes to public sector, because all the people All the people in the leadership positions have come out of that. It's only now that homegrown talent in private sectors is coming to the fore. Go and check up the top echelons. All of them will be either from IITs or these good institutions, and they have got their grooming in public sector, because as a training ground, nobody has the kind of facilities, the kind of resources, the kind of investment that public sector has. Leaving that point aside, what has happened is, so this knowledge has to be brought in sync. The faculty has to impart this knowledge, the faculty has to be updated. That's one issue. What is the second issue? The emphasis that we are putting in colleges on theoretical learning, let me call it as engineering science. There are two portions of engineering teaching. One is engineering science, the conceptual part, and the information part. That we are doing reasonably well. Students are mugging it up, producing it by rote into the examination papers, and then they are getting good marks, and they are scoring 80%, 70%, 72% and all that. And as they say, when you ask them very fundamental questions, they have forgotten along with the semester. 20 days down the line, you ask them, what are the subjects you have appeared in the test for? They'll forget, sir, कोई subject था, भूल गए क्या subject था. अब उसकी जरूरत नहीं है ना sir. अब तो नए subjects आ गए sir. Even what they have studied as a subject in second year, they don't remember in final year. And we are talking of bridging of the gap, that fundamental concepts are not there. They doesn't remember even the name of the subject. So, the theoretical part, the science part of it, we have talked a lot in the classroom. The students have observed, he has mugged it up, learning by rote, he has produced it, he has got the marks. And thereafter he has conveniently forgotten. What happens to the application part? In all the developed nations, the engineering curriculum is highly application oriented. 60% or maybe 50% is in terms of the engineering science part of it or the conceptual part of it. 40 to 50% is terms of the application part of it. And the application part is extremely weak in all our colleges, especially in the self-financing category of colleges. It's extremely weak. Why is it so weak? Because there is no interaction or no interface between the industry and the colleges. Most of the colleges are aware of this, but there is no hand holding. They are not getting opportunities. Of 8 lakh engineers are coming out every year. Where do you train them in terms of industry exposure, those 8 lakhs? In 80,000 industries at the rate of 10 per industry. Are there 80,000 industries providing those training slots to these young coming this thing? We as industries think that we should get off-the-shelf manpower because that's very important for our existence. That is where the competitive advantage comes. Like unless your human resource is competitive, unless it is highly motivated, you are out of the competition. Investment and know-how, no more are competitive advantages. The only competitive advantage is a well-informed, well-trained, highly motivated manpower. That's our stake. What are we doing for developing that? As PepsiCo, if I have to produce potato chips of the highest order and the potato is not available of that quality, what do? I go back to the farmers, give them money, give them incentives, tell them that you produce potatoes of this quality, I am going to pay you 1 rupee more per kg when I buy this, and I'll be a bulk buyer. And farmers will start producing that. Of their own, they will not know which potato is being required by Pepsi's Lahar or whatever it is. Is that happening? That's not happening. We have been talking about it. Nothing has been done. We have been following the FICCI, we have followed the Confederation of Indian Industries, we have gone to SOCHM, we have gone to all kinds of people asking them to set up an institutional arrangement where some 50 industries and 50 colleges in a geographical area which is closely related come together. I place a demand for training slots, you give me the response for those training slots, or you provide me experts from industry who come down to my college and talk to these middle level students. It's happening in IITs and NITs. These mid-segment institutes require a lot of hand-holding. Of their own, they cannot do this. Is anybody coming forward to do that hand-holding? Very little of it. So unless we have facilities for training up these 8 lakh peoples, like we say, why can't that person go and set up an industry? I'm not criticizing, I'm saying why. Go to a doctor who completes an MBBS degree. There is an internship of 2 years that he has to do as a house surgeon or as a practicing doctor, because the human anatomy all over the world is the same. So whether it's a small town or a large town or a metro city, you have hospitals everywhere, and all medical colleges have hospitals attached to their teaching programs. And right from second year onwards, the doctors spend half the time actually studying the diseases and anatomies and cases which are coming there. And you know who are producing better doctors? Government colleges. Why? Their faculty is excellent? No. All these poor people are coming to the government hospitals for dying. If I go to Fortis as an MBBS graduate, they will not put a industrialist, a billionaire on a MRI scan and say, you please operate on this because you will charge less money. And I do some funny operation, I kill him. They won't give me that opportunity to learn. In a government hospital, you have killed somebody, then you will kill 3 lives, you will save 30,000 lives as a doctor over your tenure. But those 2-3 mistakes have got to be gone through before you start realizing how important is my skill in terms of being a doctor. And therefore, the MBBS graduates who are coming out, they're very tense, this thing. But if he doesn't get employed, he doesn't get admission in a doctor of medicine degree, for which the running price is almost 1 crore of rupees off the shelf, behind the back. The fees may be 1 lakh rupees per year, but unless you pay 1 crore of rupees, you won't get admission in any one of these private colleges. So he sets up a small shop with just one checking table and a stethoscope and starts writing prescriptions. He makes 1,000 rupees a day. He can set up a shop somewhere in small town, some small this thing. But can an engineering graduate coming out of our self-financing colleges set up a small shop to manufacture even a small staple pin or some kind of an awl pin or so whatever? He doesn't have that exposure at all. He cannot do it. He has no idea how a project is to be set up. Government is giving funds. He can't even go to the state financing corporations or to the banks and put up an application by filling up a small project report and putting it before the bank saying, what are your financial parameters? This is where I stand on those parameters. This is the product, this is the cost, this is the other expenses, and this is the marketing price which I will command, and this is the profit, and therefore the project is sustainable. You can't do even this much because we don't teach these things. Because there is no mechanism in place for this kind of an exposure. So the practical application part and the skill development part, you can only develop generic skills. You can't have like hospitals, companies attached to colleges, because for the simple reason that the technologies are so diverse. Power sector, yes, NTPC, Mr. Sanjay is from the power sector. You have hydropower, you have thermal power, you have solar power, you have nuclear power. There itself the technologies are highly divergent. Go across all the branches, you will have close to 2,000 different segments where the technologies differ. An engineering college with a 10 crore investment cannot set up 2,000 centers of excellence to provide grooming in all those branches. It is impossible. What is possible? That each one of these industries realizes its obligation to produce manpower which is deployable, which is employable, and which will take the economy forward. Their stake is as high as the stakes of the colleges. Colleges have started responding. A mechanism yet is not in place that an average middle level college can approach for good training, for good exposure, for faculty development, for a lot of this thing. Let us have whatever faculty we have. Give them slots in industry. Let them go for a month's training or 1.5 months training during summer vacation as our students are going. After 3 years, see the difference in the quality level of those faculty. Their entire approach of mind will change. The complete concept will change. Even if you bring people from industry, 10 years down the line they become obsolete. So continuous engagement with industry is required. Let us engage at that level. Is it happening? It's not happening, barring a few top level colleges. It's not at all happening. Then how do you get this application capability? How do you get the skill generation? Go to the IT sector, you have n number of training agencies giving Java, giving this, giving .NET, giving whatever, giving Android. Android has come 2 years back. At least 20 trainers have approached me, sir, we can give you Android training and we can place your students. Has anybody come from the industry saying we can give you die casting training? We can give you forging training, we can give you foundry training, We can give you training how to wind a generator. We can give you training how to assemble a diesel engine. We can give you training how to test an engine. That's not happening. Then how do we expect? This is where the gap is. And the only solution is that industry realizes its responsibility to integrate backwards, because their stake is to get the right kind of manpower. Educational institutions, especially in the self-financing sector, have to realize that their existence is at stake and they have to integrate forwards, and together we have to create an ecosystem where manpower to the liking of the industry is created in terms of generic skills and generic competencies, plus a wide-based knowledge, which as a self-drive, the person has a starting point. Extensive specialization at the graduate level is just not possible because the technologies are too diverse, as Mr. Sanjay said, that let there be mechanical engineering, let there be instrumentation, let there be electrical engineering. With that wide generalization, when a person goes to into a specific industry, he can get an year's exposure, 2 years exposure. Then there can be advanced learning programs in collaboration with industry, where a person can come back and complete a sandwich kind of an MTech, where he's working in thermal power, they're offering a degree in thermal power. Fine, he knows 90% or 80% of the job, having been in NTPC for 2 years. All he needs is an authentication or a certification of the capability level. And these people are in constant touch with 10 power producers, so they have the latest state-of-the-art know-how. They can produce that kind of paper, they can ask them to give a project. All that can be done staying at the workplace and taking a short sabbatical and coming back and completing the degree. The degree will be far more meaningful. Now, this kind of thing has not happened in this country. Historically, we have been talking only of the engineering science part, not only application part, and all this malfunctioning or lack of this thing is because of this big gap. Now, how to bridge it? Yes, we have people from industry. There is an onus or responsibility on the industries also, as much as on the colleges also. Nobody can shirk away. We are stakeholders as colleges. We are stakeholders as industries. We want the input. We prepare the input. Both of us have to come together. And once we have, this is the biggest, weakest link in the employability of the student. Soft skills, 10 years back, nobody was thinking of soft skills. Now this has become an important issue. How do you develop attitudes? Attitudes don't get developed over a day. If you have 2,000 impacts in your life, and right from your parents to your school, to your college, to the police that you go, or the railway ticket you book, everywhere you are speaking a lie. You are giving a bribe. And the 2001st time you are entering a corporate and you should become ethical, do you think that 2001st exposure will make you ethical? Because somebody in the college told you become ethical. Will that happen? It's not going to happen. Those 2,000 impacts built up the psyche of that person. So all of us have to come together in developing an education where from we start sensitizing students right from the beginning. Schools are doing it in a very minor way, but our entire schooling system, hardly 15 or 20% of the students are who have received this kind of education. Others are not receiving this kind of an education, and as a technical institute, what do? Go back to classroom number 1. So we have to have add-on courses or additional courses to rectify for what has not been done and produce something which is acceptable. So value training, you call it personal development, call it personality development, call it value training. A person should realize, should self-explore, should understand where is he strong, where is he weak, what weaknesses can lead to failure in life, what strong points can be leveraged at the workplace for more success. All this has to happen in a very interactive or interesting way, so that every student becomes conscious that, look, these are the attributes in my personality which can be a hindrance for my future success at the workplace. All that kind of program, call it soft skills program, call it PDP, call it whatever you like, has to occur. But even this is secondary. The actual exposure part for core industries is our biggest weakness as of today. Then job specific competencies, you can't develop all competencies in the college. It's not possible. I have studied, I have worked in industry 32 years, I have worked in colleges for 10 years. Generic competencies you can build. What is leadership? Who performs better as a leader and why? That concept you can give. What are good interpersonal relationships? How do you analyze your interpersonal relationship capability? Why do you behave in such a manner which is hurting to the other person, and you are unable to form a team at the workplace, and therefore the group effectiveness of your team goes down, which is what is important for an organization. You can sensitize students towards these issues, which is also not happening in all colleges. Some mid-segment and upper segment colleges have started doing this. IITs and IITs, by virtue of getting a brilliant intake, they automatically have those students. But those who are not having tweaked attitudes, you have those funny performers even from IITs and NIITs who create a lot of scenes and problems and difficulties. They are also not running these programs, but as mid-segment institutes, if we have to, we should run these programs and prepare students for this. So if we do that, and if we have strong industry interfaces, and if industry is willing to come back to these mid-segment colleges, well, the manufacturing muscle of this country will go up several folds, just like China. And it has been proven. Proven in which fields? In automobile engineering. All these big names came to India to sell their automobiles, not to set up bases here in India. They set up small assembly plants thinking that it's the second biggest market in the world next to China. And they were not able to sell enough number of automobiles, and they had a lot of manpower, they have a lot of knowledge. So where do they go? They came to India to set up a base, okay, we will service, we'll sell, we'll do this. And what they realized? That the kind of skills which are existing in this country already can be leveraged to produce the required quality at the cheapest possible cost anywhere in the world. Automobile exports of India are at par with China. The largest producer of motorbikes is in India. The second largest producer is also in India. And together we export 3 times more the bicycles, that two-wheelers, than China is exporting. In spite of its very highly efficient workforce and a tremendous danda at the top in the hands of the government, it has not been able to replicate the kind of performance which Indian automobile sector has given. As a consequence, India is very successful in the automobile sector. Why? Because automobile manufacturing requires a very high level of skill. It's the simple manual labor, we shy away from hard work. But if it is intellectual labor where skills or mental capabilities are required, we perform better. We win championships in chess or in cricket. Very seldom we have won something in football or other games. The very psyche of the people of this country is tuned towards that. Take another success story. Electronic manufacturing is not that success. The second is pharma. All the drugs which have been delicensed from patents, India is the largest producer. Second largest is in Asia, third largest in the world. And even China.
Mr. Sanjeev Singh. And Dr. V.K.Sharma. So we break for lunch. We would make it a bit short. We will reassemble again by 2:30. Some of our other panelists have arrived and we have spilled over the time of our second session. So we will manage it. We will join the two of them. So thanks a lot.